Welcome back to Unscripted with Marilyn Morales. We took a little bit of a break while Izzy's Legacy got ready for their fundraising event, which just happened this past Monday. It was so inspirational, very successful. We are so happy that we were able to honor the first recipient of the Izzy's Legacy grant. Her name is Gabby Rocco, and she was there and was able to share a few words, as well as um, a person that I met who had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Her name is Brian Garrison, and he was able to share some inspiration about his diagnosis, about how he is living his life right now with a diagnosis like that, and how his perspective has changed. And we were able to gift him with the experience of a golf uh, tournament. He absolutely loves golf. He shared that with me. I know his mom. His mother is a nurse who I worked with when I first moved to New Jersey. And when I met him and found out about his journey and how much he loved golf, we had a beautiful donor who gifted Izzy's Legacy a foursome for someone in need, somebody in the fight. So a shout out to Patrick Rude for doing that for us. So we were able to gift that experience to Brian, and he was able to be there with his father, with his friends, to enjoy one final game of golf. So shout out to you, Brian. And, Izzy's Legacy is here with you every step of your journey. Well, today's guest is someone that I met just a couple months ago and virtually. I still have not met her in person, but that is on my list of things to do before the end of this year. So let me introduce you to her. Her name is Yasmin West, and Yasmin is both an accountant and metaphysician. Metaphysician. I know a lot of you don't even know what that is, but she's going to share with us what that is. With over 20 years of experience, her own profound transformation occurred during the deadly fires in Paradise, California in 2018. Left with no regular communication methods, she relied on her metaphysical skills, setting intentions to get her mother safely evacuated. Additionally, she used prayers and intentions to manifest protection of her mother's home as the fire raged through the neighborhood. I can only imagine having your mom, knowing that she's not safe, and just needing her to be safe. I can only imagine. After the fire, Yasmin became very passionate to share with others how to do the same type of work for themselves. She became a Reiki Master healer and helped herself and others support the healing of their medical conditions. She currently teaches classes on a regular basis to share her knowledge and help them live a more empowered life. To further the reach of her work, both she and her husband started a registered tax-deductible 501c3 nonprofit radio station, www.radiobobusa.com. It is Radio Bob's mission to provide a network of programming and resources for community services designed to help their listeners improve physical, emotional, spiritual, and financial balance in their lives. Guys, this sounds like The Gathering Haven, right? My other project. It sounds just like us. Let's welcome Yasmin to the show. Hi.
Hello. So happy to be here. Thank you for having
Thank you for
me.
coming on, and so early for those of you who don't know, right? Because this is pre-recorded. We're here at 8:00 in the morning on a Friday, right? Recording.
Yeah, 5 a.m. my time.
5 a.m. your time. So thank you so much for doing that. And listen, this bio, I have so many questions, right? So
yeah, of course.
I've got a lot of questions just because that's the love of my life is absolutely is holistic medicine, being able to teach others and guide others on how they can improve their health with non-pharmaceuticals. Your body has the innate ability to heal itself, but we have to help it along. But before we get into all of that, share with me your story and what got you into all of this.
Absolutely. It was quite unbelievable even for me. And I had been studying this type of work, but sometimes there's a point in your life where you're tested to, take that next level up in your life. And I really feel this event was that for me. For those of you that don't know, the Paradise Fire in 2018, it was a horrific situation because The way the location of the area, it's on a ridge. And so there's only a few roads out of town. And we had just moved my mom up there a couple years earlier. That was going to be, her peaceful retirement area. It was a cost-effective place to live. And so it checked all the boxes, and she loved nature. She loved the area. It was filled with trees. And so she was so excited, and we saw her health improve as well when we moved her up there, because she had been living in the Bay Area. And so, it was just, heaven for her while she was there.
Right.
But that morning was really, it went so fast. And I had just called her on the phone in the morning, and because a friend alerted me, said, "Hey, there's a fire going on up there," and she said it looks really bad. And so I called my mom, and she was monitoring things on the news, and we thought she was going to be okay. So she was just like, I think they've got it under control. Everything should be fine. Looks like it's down in the lower Paradise area. It's not up near Magalia where I am. So I said, okay, well, we'll just keep in contact, and, it should be all right. And that was early in the morning. So I got off the phone with her, and then it looked like it was not okay. Things moved so fast. They simply didn't know. And there was no communication up there. And it raged through so fast that all of a sudden things turned just like that. And then I tried to call her again, and the phone lines were gone.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so I had no idea. I was just like, my God, I need to tell her. And one of the most scary things for me was I was hearing, there was a wonderful guy on YouTube doing this all for free, former firefighter. He was listening to scanners and giving information that wasn't coming through on the news.
Right.
And I was hearing reports of the one road out of town that she knew how to get out was completely blocked. And that was the direction the fire was coming. And I was like, my God, I need to tell her, and she needs to find another way out, because she can't go south. All those roads are blocked. People had actually abandoned their vehicles because they were blocked and sitting in traffic, and the fire was just coming at them.
Oh my God.
And so they abandoned their vehicles and ran for cover. And so all that road was blocked, and people couldn't get through. This was the only road out of town she knew, and I knew that. And so here I was listening to this, freaking out, and I kept calling, and I tried her cell, and I couldn't get through. And so I had no idea what to do.
And Yasmin, how far were you from that this was happening?
I was 2 hours away in Sacramento. So, there was really nothing I could do. I mean, I could have driven up there, but, really there was chaos going on.
Right.
How am I going to help? Right.
Right.
So my hands were basically tied, and I was just like, my God, what do I do? What do I do? Well, she and I, she had always been into metaphysics. And, I knew these things were possible. I knew telepathy was possible. And I was like, look, I'm not some trained person that can, prove I do this on the fly all the time, but, this is all I have left. And so I set that intention. And, for people that might not know, it's basically the same thing as prayer. But, sometimes with prayer, we're kind of begging a little bit, and with intention setting, this will work. And, there's a little bit of a difference there, but basically it's the same. And I was just envisioned me connecting with her and putting protection around her and envisioning the best possible outcome, that I don't know how, I don't know where, but she is going to find a way to safety. She is going to know how to drive north instead of south. And even though she doesn't know where she's going, it's going to happen. I don't know where, I don't know how, it's going to happen somehow. And it was hours. It was all day at work. I was just waiting to hear from her because I couldn't call her.
Right.
And so we finally heard from her 9:00 that night. So this all started at 9:00 in the morning. 9:00 at night, she called me on the phone, on her cell phone, and said she was up in Redding and had safely evacuated and was on her way down to Sacramento to be with us.
Oh my God, thank God.
Yeah. And I just, I was in a horrible emotional state that whole day. And just to get that call was so precious. It was so amazing and so precious.
I'm sure the welcome when she finally made it to you, right?
Yeah.
It was very emotional. So did she say that she experienced anything, that she received anything, that she felt anything when she finally got to your home? What did she say?
Well, so the other side of the story is not my perspective, but it's her perspective. So what happened was she got off the phone. Okay. All odds were against her because she was just like, there was so much, she didn't have any information. So all these cars, people were going crazy. And so she said she parked her car in the garage because she didn't want people to bother her.
Okay.
My mother was a special kind of person. So she parked her car in the garage so people wouldn't bother her. And then she went to her bedroom to meditate.
Okay. She's getting her spirit calm so that she can figure out what her next step is going to be.
Right. And so nobody, as they were evacuating people, nobody even knew she was home. They thought she had left.
Oh my God. So, listen, there's a point to this story, guys. If something's happening, don't put your car away. Let people know you're there.
Right. So finally she got up and she was like, well, I think she must have checked the news or something. And then she thought, well, maybe I should be prepared to leave if I have to. So she got her things ready and got them in the car. And then her neighbor, who he was watching everything to the very end, he was up on his roof watching the fire.
He's another special person.
Yeah. He just happened to go knocking door to door just to make sure all his neighbors were leaving and were aware. And when he knocked on her door and she opened the door, he was just like, oh my God. He was shocked that she was still there. And he's like, yeah, you should, I thought you were already gone. You should go. And just as she was loading her car and her stuff, she was mobility challenged. So she was moving kind of slow, but she had just gotten to her car and she was ready to go out of there. And right then the sheriff, they didn't have time to call people, anything. They were just driving by with a loudspeaker telling people to evacuate through the neighborhood. And I'll tell you, the people that got that warning were lucky because they simply didn't have time. So she was pulling out. And again, they told her, don't go south. And she had no idea where to go. So she drove a little further up the road to the community center. They had a parking lot there and people were hanging out and staging. And she just happened to run into a friend of hers that knew exactly where to go.
Yeah.
And they had a whole caravan, and they got to safety. So,
Amen.
yeah, that was, I mean, all odds were against her, right?
Yeah, for so many
Given the
reasons.
circumstances.
So many reasons why that,
Yeah.
but there's never, and this is sometimes when people ask, where's God when these things happen? Right there. Right there. Right?
Yeah.
It's right there where
Yeah.
those connections happen, where the prayers of all of the families, I'm sure that there were multiple families praying for their loved ones to get out of there, right? And everybody was able to
Yeah.
get together. So there's an energetic level to this, whether you believe in a God, whether you believe in the universe or all these things, right? There is an energetic pull to safety for all these people. And as long as you listen, then that's the whole thing. These things happen, but you have to listen to that inner calling that you receive to move, to go, to follow, and that this is the right
Yeah.
way to go. Right? When we don't listen to that inner compass is when we run into problems.
100%. And ever since then, and then when she got back home, we didn't know for over a month whether or not her house had made it. But I will tell you, we were there. We were setting intentions of protection for her home. And looking back on it, I wish I could have done it for the whole area because so many people lost so much, and it just really dug into my heart. But we did that for our home. And if you look on the fire map, and I later found out from a friend that had someone working on the fire line, the fire started, and we didn't know this, but the fire came a block and a half up on Creston Drive. And the fire crews were all lined up on Creston Drive, ready to lose the town of Magalia. They're just like, that this is impossible. We can't stop it, but we're going to try, and we're going to make this stand. And so they were there, lined up on Creston, the fire raging straight at them. They were so brave, and they knew they were probably going to lose it. And this was a block and a half away from her house. At the last second, the wind shifted and went back the other direction, and then kind of went around.
Wow.
And the whole street that she lived on, Wycliffe Way, I can prove this. You can look up on the Cal Fire map, went around her, and all her neighbors were spared.
Wow.
Amazing. And I was like, holy hell. Something happened there. Something really happened there.
Amazing. Yeah. Tell me, was this a community of older persons as well? Were they all her neighbors?
Yeah, they're it's an interesting area. You have a mix of people that have lived there their whole lives. And so you have generations of family. So there's some younger folks, but just a lot of good people. It's a very spiritual community because, you have just about every form of church was up there.
Okay.
So, you have people that believe all sorts of things, and a lot of people that come together. It's a small town. There's that small town vibe, which I personally had never experienced because I grew up in a bigger city. But it was amazing to watch the rebuild. People had lost everything, just came together, and they just wanted to help each other. And so all that was very inspiring and impactful on me as well. I started donating my time, and just, even though it was a couple hours away, I would drive up there and I would do these meditation intention sessions where there were people. So, people had not just lost their homes. Some of them lost their jobs because their employers burned down. Mm. So it was, excuse me, it was a pretty bad situation. So I wanted to help people manifest things that they needed, right?
No.
And, get them out of that stress state, get them to calm down out of the fight or flight. Because I know for myself, even just worrying about her, it actually did traumatize me a bit where, there was one day I couldn't even drive to work because my motor skills were gone. And, I'm a pretty self-sufficient gal. I picked myself up by the bootstraps. So that was shocking for me that could actually happen to someone. So that, I had a lot of compassion for everyone that had gone through that. And so I wanted to help. And so I did meditation sessions where we did intention settings with a way that I thought would help people. And we did. We started out small, getting them to manifest a free cup of coffee and worked our way up to,
And that worked?
finding a place. It did for the people that came back. Not everybody came back, but the people, I went up there once a month and we did some pretty amazing things. And so that kind of birthed and transformed into the work I did.
Manifesting a free cup of coffee.
Yeah.
So explain that to me a little bit.
So I've actually taught this same exact meditation on Spencer Jones's Energy Hub in the Facebook group. But so I took people through a progressive relaxation to get them to connect with that part of their self. Let's see, how do I explain this? It's not their everyday waking self. It's that part of you that's directly connected to the creator, the God, Jesus, however you identify that.
Right.
So you're in connection and you're in alignment and and then I took them through a visualization exercise to almost become the person you are when you have something. So, without going into too much detail, this is something that has to do with a lot of vibrational frequencies in the world. Okay. And this has all been scientifically proven. That's part of the work that I help educate people with. But
is there a specific name for that?
Manifestation work mostly is the more common term for it. So yeah, and the goal is to become the person you are when you actually have it. So you're not in a state of needing and wanting, because that kind of shifts you out of the alignment that you want to be in. So you're visualizing, but it's more than visualizing. You actually become it. So I'm not wanting a cup of coffee. I am visualizing that cup of coffee steaming in front of me, how it smells, how it tastes, how I'm going to feel when I take that first sip, and the warmth comes down my throat. These are all things that shift your vibrational makeup to then bring that into you. And, the way this works is, it's certainly possible to sit on the couch and have manifest something to you, but you always want to put the odds in your favor. So, instead of just sitting on the couch and waiting for something to come, go out into the world, because that's when you're going to meet people and all these synchronistic events are going to happen to make that possible.
Okay, that's excellent. And I always tell a funny story when people talk about manifestation, right? And exactly how you're explaining this. I used to have an addiction to donuts. That's a funny story, right? I was at work. I had an addiction to Krispy Kreme donuts and the hot light, and when they come out of the conveyor thing. One morning I was drinking coffee at work and I was like, oh my God, I would just love a donut, right? And I could actually taste it, right? When you get to that, when you actually want it. And I was at work. So I get up, but I could feel me having that donut. Exactly what you're talking about, but I had no idea that that's what I was doing, right?
Yeah.
So I get up to go to work, and maybe half an hour later, someone had come in from and I'm a nurse. I'm a nursing director, right? So a lot of these outside vendors will come in to try to get my business to bring into where I was working. All of a sudden, I get a call from the front desk. that somebody was there. And I was like, oh, I'm in the middle of something. And they were like, they have a whole box of donuts for you. I was like, what?
See, and now that's an example of manifesting something you don't want. And we do it all the time.
Yeah. I wanted that donut. I wanted it. I wanted it. I had an addiction. And it was somebody I knew, right? So she said she was
Yeah.
on her way to my facility. And all of a sudden got this thought of, I should stop and get, because I know Marilyn loves donuts. She was driving by. I should go get her the donut at the same time that I was thinking this half an hour before. She got it. She brought it and said, here, have a great day.
Yep. And
I was
that's
like, oh my God.
that's exactly how it works.
Yeah.
You know,
You just don't know that you're doing it.
Yeah. And, when you start to understand just how energetic this world is, we're kind of incestuous, right?
Yeah.
Nothing's a secret, and we're all intermingling all of our thoughts and our emotions and our feelings. And, when you start to do this type of work, you start to understand that, and you start to become much more mindful about what you're putting out there in the world.
Intentional, right? Intentional,
Yeah.
bringing the things. That was a good day for me, by the way.
Yeah.
It worked out in my favor. I was very happy after that.
Yeah.
So the question is, the metaphysical, the meditation, all of this started before that fire, right? So when did you first realize that you had this ability to connect?
Well, I had done it sporadically, and I will say there is a vast difference between kind of what you know is possible, or no, what you've like studied through books, through classes and all that. You hear other people's stories, that this stuff can work, but you don't really know it until
Something happens like
clicks inside of you, right?
Right. But you had an interest in it, right? So this doesn't come.
Yeah.
Not everybody has an interest, is drawn to these things. So my question to you is more, did this happen as a child? Were you already, because you say your mom is a very spiritual person. Was it in watching mom? Because that happened to me, right? My mother was a very spiritual person. Would talk about crystals, would talk about all these things when I was a little girl, right? Herbs and healing and very much into that. So I know that by watching her and my grandmother, who was also the same, right? I knew that
Yeah.
these things were possible through watching them as a child. And as I became older, started to become interested in it myself and would read books. So is that the same for you?
Pretty much. I know, as I can remember my beliefs as a very early child, I never really saw God in the traditional sense that most people who follow a particular religion feel God. I always felt the God presence all around me in nature, more of as an energy around me. And my mom, actually, when I was very young, she was kind of a religion hopper. So,
Yeah.
Catholic, Judaism, everything.
You're trying to
And
figure it out. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and then she eventually got more into the, more metaphysical stuff. She studied self-realization, Yogananda, so all the
Right.
miracle things they do in India. And then she became a Rosicrucian. So they're very into, like, they have their own mystery school teachings, that sort of thing. And so I started to see a common theme, like, so, I don't begrudge anybody for what they believe. I think you can get that connection as long as you have a connection with source energy, whatever religion you practice, this is available to you. And, I really saw that common theme. The core teachings of any practice is that connection with source. That's what we're trying to get to. And so I never really saw things the way other people, that were necessarily Catholic or a Jewish saw things. And I just kind of saw that higher perspective. And then as my mom got more into the metaphysical, I just, those things just, I was like, well, okay, well, this makes sense to me. This is kind of what my intuition is guiding me towards. So I wasn't necessarily one of those natural born psychics or anything like that, but it was always there.
It's always there. And I think it's there for all of us. It's there for
Yeah.
all of us. It's just, some of us pay attention to it, right?
Right.
And do things to develop it while others just ignore it. And I know that everybody has had some kind of experience in their life, and what they want to call it, what they want to pursue it is a whole different path, right? So
Right.
explain to me being a metaphysician. A lot of people don't know what that is, myself included. Talk to me. What is that?
Well, it's basically connecting to the higher source and following your intuition. There's definitely, manifestation involved. If you have needs in your life, that is certainly something you can bring into your life. People do different things with it. For me, once I had a decent job, a roof over my head, food in my belly, and especially after the paradise experience, for me, I started to shift more into, I wanted to share this with others. There's a lot of people out there with the thought that, and the world is not set up in our favor, right? It's meant for us to struggle.
Yeah, 100%. It's a course that we're meant to go through in order to strengthen our spirituality.
Right. But when we're in alignment and when we step into that metaphysical space, we know we can, it's almost like a calm around the chaos, and you're going to be all right. You're tapped into your higher power, and everything's going to be fine. And whereas, there might be a little disaster that happens here, but you understand that sometimes, and in my classes I go more into why this is, but you understand that sometimes a little something needs to be disrupted here to make room for something else better to come into your life.
And
it's beautiful. And that's why I don't, I used to get so mad when things didn't work out for me in the past, but I understand. It's like, okay, well, first of all, maybe I wasn't supposed to connect with that person or do business with that person or whatever, or get that job. Maybe, I was a little off alignment and that wasn't where I was supposed to be. Or maybe there's something better out there, and that's why all of a sudden I lose my job, because I'm going to get a much better one.
right.
So
Better, different, more aligned with what you're here to do. You never know the person that you're supposed to meet in that new job, right? So
right.
better has a lot of different meanings, right? It doesn't necessarily mean monetary, financial. It could mean a lot of different things. The connections that are there are so much more, for me anyway, are so much more important than the dollar. It is,
Yeah.
what am I here to learn? Right? And especially those negative experiences that we have, right? And sometimes we have bosses or coworkers that we have conflict with, and we're trying to resolve whatever that is. But what did I learn from this conflict? And what did I learn about myself that I don't want to repeat in the future? Right? I always say
Exactly.
we're here to grow our souls. That's
Yeah.
the purpose of the earth. Grow your soul. So make sure that every experience that you have, you figure out, how did I grow from this? Even though it was a negative experience, but how can I turn this into a love experience where my soul grew?
And also understanding it's dynamic, because the person I needed to grow into 5 years ago is not the same person I need to grow into in the future. So it's going to change up again.
Yeah. And I always say, women, we are, and I can only speak from a woman's perspective because I'm not a guy, right? But a woman is a different woman in every decade of her life. Even as a little girl, every decade of your life, you're different. But when you become 20 and then 30 and then 40 and then 50, and you look back, every single decade, you're somebody different. You developed into somebody different. And we help. Once we get there, we're trying to help those that are coming up behind us, right? To be able to take some shortcuts. right? You don't have to
Yeah.
take that long road that I took. Let me help you get a little bit faster through it, right? With the tools that we've picked up along the way. Now, talk to me about Radio Bob USA. Tell me about why and what that does.
Okay, so that's where something very profound happened to my husband. That he saw all the work I started doing with the manifestation classes, and then later with the Reiki healing, as I was trying to help people navigate their health. And, I started to heal things in my own body using that. And right around the pandemic, he actually had a former coworker who committed suicide because it's a long story, but, basically her dad had her working for his company. And so all her life, she had never gone out and gotten job skills or anything. And so here she was at 40 years old. She felt trapped. She had no education. All she ever knew was working for dad's company, and his company was going bankrupt. She had no love prospects. And so she felt there was no way out for her. So she committed suicide. And, that really tore a hole in my husband's heart. And he was just like, the work you're doing, the impact you're having on people, I have to do something to reach people that feel this way. And, I don't know if I can help them, but I've got to do something. I've got to try. So September of last year, we went live with a radio station, and it was chaotic. We didn't know what we were going to do with it, but we were just trying to get, we play a variety of good tunes to get people uplifted and through their workday. And then we sprinkle in like some words of wisdom tips or some positive affirmations or something like that. And then later in the evenings, we run like podcasts like this, like you and I are talking on right now, to get people to understand and get them to think about maybe a new possibility so that they don't feel so trapped, and that there's other people out there that can help them. And then on our website, we put links to like suicide prevention hotlines, other life coaches, things like that, so that they have a place that they can reach out to. And so, we started with nothing but an idea last year, and it's grown tremendously just by getting out into the public and explaining what we were doing with this mission. And, it's just growing. Just this past month, we had over 2,500 listeners, and
Wow.
we started with 0. So,
Amen. God bless. God bless.
Yeah.
So kudos to you and your husband for putting out positive things and changing lives. That's what this is all about, right? So
Yeah.
my last question for you is, what is your definition of success?
I think it's achieving that inner peace within your soul. Money's fluid. It comes and goes. But if you're right with your soul, you're going to be okay. And you can't really put a price tag on that. Yeah. I know for myself, my husband, we've had some financial successes, and we've been totally financial ruined. Yeah. But, once you understand, hey, I can work my way back from this. This is just a temporary dip in the road. And what I'm okay with is I can go out into the world. I don't let the world affect me. I'm not constantly triggered by whatever's going on in the news or whatever. You can't put a price tag on that, because you see other people in the world, they can get so angry by maybe just getting cut off in traffic by someone. And they hold that within them like a day, sometimes more than a day. And that is throwing their own inner peace and happiness out the window. And so I think when you're truly successful, yes, it's nice to have a nice life with money and no worries there. But understand that if you were to lose that all tomorrow, if you still had your inner peace, you're still good. So.
Yeah, inner peace. So I'm part of the Gathering Haven. I'm co-owner of the Gathering Haven. My partner, Julia Gandhi, that's exactly what she teaches people, to have that inner peace. So I know how important that is. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for that great answer. Now, how can people get a hold of you if they want to learn more and have those classes that you were talking about? How can they get a hold of you?
So we have two websites. So obviously we have the radio station website, which is www.radiobobusa.com. And we have links to not just my other website, but other people as well. So we encourage everyone to go there and listen to the programming as well. It's good stuff. And if you want to get a hold of me directly, I am on www.thereikiaccountant.com. And that is where I post flyers. If I do paid and unpaid workshops. So just check in there. I'm actually running something for November. I'm going to do just kind of like a basic masterclass on energy healing. It's not going to make you a Reiki master or anything like that, but it's just going to explain the basics of that and how you can get started.
Well, that's awesome. And we invite you to the Gathering Haven to come and share with our, supporters as well. So guys, it's coming. It's coming. I'm going to manifest it. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing this morning with me and sharing all those wonderful nuggets that you've shared with us this morning. Thank you again. And for my listeners, I will see you next time.
Thank you.